My name is Carmela Tunzi, and today I'm super excited to be introducing Scott McFall. He is a mentor to me and trainer, the founder of the MHS, and over 40 years experience in the hypnosis and NLP communication industry, and so much more. But that being said, the topic that I'm going to ask him about today is a conversation about gratitude and how he is interpreting how important gratitude is for you all today. So,
Cool.
Scott,
Hey, Carmela.
what is the idea?
Well, there's a big deal in our profession where we have to correct. People come to us to correct a life, to correct communication skills, to correct relationship skills, to correct how they are fit or not fit, to correct whether they're smoking or not smoking. Perhaps they come in to correct, let's say, the ability to dissociate from pain, right?
Mhm.
So, like the last 4 days, I've been here at the Pink Shell Resort down here in Fort Myers Beach or Captiva area. And several of the Canadian teachers and students have been down here, some of the high performers, and they've been correcting triggers. Like,
Mhm.
where do they get emotionally triggered and what would happen if they don't,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And the thing is, that means that they have to be willing to be wrong. We're going to have car background noise because we have to have air conditioning. So
You
think
sound
about
good.
the idea
Keep going.
that a person needs to be grateful for when they find out they are wrong.
Mhm. That could be a hard
Is that,
lesson for
is
many
that
people.
how you usually respond to being wrong? Or what happens when you, in your natural element, Carmela, when you were 10 years, 15 years old, 20 years old, how did you respond to being wrong?
I don't think I, growing up, ever thought I was wrong. That's the
Say that
problem
again.
in itself. I don't think growing up I ever thought I was wrong. And that's a problem in itself, right? As I've matured and through your training in MHS, um, there might be a softening of that and understanding that we're not ever always right. And the correction can, possibly feel like it's bruising something. But over time, you learn to just be flexible and adjust and pick up, from that moment moving forward with a new insight.
Right. So, isn't it an interesting concept? What if I am happy
Mm-hmm.
when someone points out where I was inaccurate? What if
Mm-hmm.
I am grateful? What if I do not trigger defensiveness?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
If you ask yourself that set of questions, you could say, okay, what if I see my deeds as separate from my identity? So it's okay if someone wants to help me change what I cannot see or wants to help me have a different strategy. What if I love that feedback? What if I love that? What if I'm grateful for that? And I
That would
think that
be that would be very useful, and it is a useful thing. Personally, I'm not speaking about me, but if I was, that I see that there's a true benefit. It feels good. It just feels good to get the corrective feedback in that way.
right. So yes. So sometimes when someone shows up at a hypnosis office, an NLP trainer, we're working on first the strategy of how this person responds to feedback,
Mm-hmm.
not the strategy of what they're there to change, but hey, what's their reaction to feedback?
Mm-hmm.
Do they like it? Do they hate it? What's their reaction?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would ask the listeners to consider this. Maybe people made you feel embarrassed when you were corrected when you were young. Or maybe you never got over the fact that everyone gets frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
but then eventually you learn to like it.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's not enough to say, oh, yeah, okay, I'll do it. All right, rah, rah, rah. Because then you're not really learning how to love it.
Right. Right. It's maturity in a
It
sense.
is.
Yes.
And so you can get ahead of it by practicing a strategy that makes you able to get ahead of this resentment that we go through, or this I want to win, or I want to be seen as the smartest person, or I don't ever want to have not figured it out for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're only going to learn so much from a book.
Yes.
What we're talking about is gratitude for learning from a person,
Mm-hmm.
that you love the fact that someone was there before, or you love the fact that they are seeing a broader picture than you. When you're in the bottle, it's okay if they can read the label.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not an insult. And that's what I'm asking. I'm asking to explore is, how often do we feel embarrassed, insulted, triggered, goofy, when what
Well,
we
I'm sure when I first started working with you, it's over a decade now, 12 years, I believe it exact, there was all of that. And as I'm hearing you speak and going into that visually, it feels like a little puppy being led on a leash. Like it feels relaxing. It doesn't feel like anything other than, oh, cool, they know where they're going. I'm just going to do it. That's literally what it feels like when you're, I believe, in the correct mood of it.
that point we can.
So when someone is receiving the feedback correctly and know that the person that is giving them the feedback that has experienced the change that you want the person to have, it feels like being a little puppy on a leash somehow, and feeling safe enough to just go along for the ride because you know that that person knows where they're going, and it just feels comfortable. It's no big deal. And I believe that it takes a while. Most people don't see it that way. And the smarter people are, is what you were saying, intellectually, the harder this becomes.
Yes, if they don't have this resource already available to them
Mm-hmm.
emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
then they're a good attorney for their emotional response when they're defensive.
Mm-hmm.
So their defensiveness becomes beautifully rationalized,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So we use the Milton Erickson story, I Don't Has To, from the book My Voice Will Go With You, to show a child's version of learning this point, don't we? And it has to do with a child who acts out, and the father is creating a situation where the child has to adapt to loving the point, not just tolerating the point.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes 4 hours with that 4 year old kid. Imagine what it takes with a 40-year-old neuroscientist who doesn't already have a good relationship with feedback, but
Mm-hmm.
is academically successful and financially already pretty successful. And then imagine trying to make a point to this person that they cannot see.
Yes.
Well, they're going to be great at basically believing whatever they believed when they got there,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they're not grateful for feedback, they're grateful for being right.
Mm-hmm. I
And if,
think this is such an important conversation as a practicing hypnotist. I see people come into the office this way. And so, my question, I guess, for you would be at this time, for a practitioner perhaps listening, how do we actually help these people really get this point? Because they might be listening to this or understanding it. But, in a
you can
training,
be triggered.
how do
Yeah.
we vaccinate against something that could cause them years of being stuck or not?
Well, think about the satir model that we teach, showing the blamer, placator, computer, distractor versus leveler, which
Mm-hmm.
is one way that we try to help with this. The story that I tell about my dad telling me, "You don't want to be right, Scott," for 6 straight hours
Mm-hmm.
about an opinion I had of my little sister, who we were both adults, and I could have easily just supported her in the first place and taken the pressure off of her, but I was so irritated with what she had done, that I was, and I wanted to be right, and I wanted to make my case, and I had the power to just make her feel approved of. And instead, I was all jacked up about nothing, you know. And I realized these stories, the fact that it took me 6 hours to just go, oh,
Mm-hmm.
and I never totally got it until he almost had to spell it out for me. And I'm sure that drove my dad crazy. I'm sure he was sitting there going, my son, maybe they switched kids at the hospital. This guy is taking an awfully long time to get this point, So I think that that's the part of it that others don't always know. It could take quite a while to go up the bell curve of frustration and come down
Mm-hmm.
and land at, oh, I should be, not only should I tolerate this, but I should be so grateful and happy and appreciative and just so enriched by the fact that I'm getting this information or this insight or this, somebody cares enough to point it out to me. But
Yes.
wow, that's not what people are going through. So when they're in a screening, when they're going through stuff, parables go a long way. Third party stories go a long way.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes the issue is there isn't enough time.
Yes.
So that's why, when I'm training trainers and stuff, I'll get them stuck in my car and we'll be going somewhere for hours, or I'll
Mm-hmm.
get them in a position where they have no choice. They're going to have to tolerate the time they're in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So think of it a little bit like horse training, it's got to start and end great. You don't want that point to end when it's not done.
Right.
It's like cooking chicken. It's got to be done, you know, and you don't want a person to get 50% of the way to getting this gratitude point and then rebel or get upset or get stressed. So my advice is to understand the parables and the lesson that you're teaching. But if you know someone's sensitive around this, maybe you need an extra hour.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you need to do this at a group training where other people are getting it and you're breaking them into pods. So this person is not having this point shoved right at them.
Right.
Maybe they need a choice that
And you've perfectly designed all of this as a trainer, one of your trainers. Um, there's a genius in the way that you have strategically planned this. There's so many layers of learning and teaching, from the intake of a brand new client to making it to that level that perhaps in the beginning, you don't have the wisdom to even understand or comprehend. And as I've been working with you for a while now, it just all falls together like a puzzle. It doesn't mean that it always goes perfectly, but as far as triggers and other people and observing what can pop up when least expected. Yes.